I guess so. I have like 4 different screens I'm using right now. So
It's like driving a starship.
yes. Yes. I've got the delegate packet on my PC. I've got my script on my iPad.
And just be aware we are live on YouTube.
Yeah. All right, we're live on YouTube. Wonderful. Welcome everyone to the Delegate Assembly. We will be starting shortly. For those of you watching the stream, we are streaming this live. On YouTube. All right. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, everyone. Actually, it's afternoon even here, so I apologize. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the 2021 Delegate Assembly of the American Mathematical Association of Two-Year Colleges. Will that please come to order? I welcome the members of the Assembly and guests. Your mic will be muted until you are recognized to speak by me. If you wish to speak, put your name and Delegate Assembly in the chat. When recognized, you will be promoted to speak. Make sure your camera and microphone is ready to be turned on when promoted. Please use the chat for only official business of the Delegate Assembly. I notice a lot of people are saying hello in there, but at this point now, if you would please leave it to being just what is for motions about for asking to speak. And yes, we are recording at this moment in time. I am appointing Don King as the parliamentarian and timekeeper. I would like to introduce the members of the 2020-21 AMATYC Executive Board. My name is Catherine Kozak, and I am the president of AMATYC. There is Laura Watkins, the president-elect, Jim Ham, the past president. Nancy Rivers is the secretary. Barbara Steinhurst is the treasurer. Sophia Jurjaki is the, sorry, give me a second. Sophia Jurjaki is the Northeast VP. Dennis Ebersol is the Mid-Atlantic VP. Alvina Atkinson is the East VP. Dale Johansson is the Central VP. April Strom is the Southwest VP. Sarah Polly is the Northwest VP, and Eddie Turchian is the West VP. I offer my thanks to these board members and friends. Will Secretary Nancy Rivers please give the delegate count?
We had a delegate count of 126 at 3 o'clock. Out of our 253 delegates, we have a quorum.
All right. According to the AMATYC bylaws, a quorum is present. The rules of conduct. Give me a second, sorry, we're a little bit of technical issues. All right, the rules of conduct are found on page 38 of the delegate packet. All persons who speak must give their name and delegate status in the chat. Please, if you would like to rename yourself with your delegate status with your affiliate or state delegate, that's fine. If you don't want to, that's okay, because you may not know how to do that, so I don't want to force it on you, but just remember to put that in the chat when you wish to speak. As a reminder, the Zoom chat should be used for delegate business only. And the time limit is 5 minutes for the debate, and that can be extended if needed. To simplify timing, we will set an initial time limit of 2 minutes per speaker. If there's no objections, we will consider the rules of conduct to be approved. Rules of conduct, there is no objection. The rules of conduct are approved. All right. Item 6. So now we'll move on to the agenda. On item 6 on the agenda, please change the 2020-21 to 2020 to 2021. The motion to approve the 2021 minutes review committee. Another change is to also, the item 9H should read that it's Article 3. So the bylaw change for Article 3, Eddie Turchian. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda on the pages 3 through 4 in the delegate packet? Please put your name in the chat if there is any. Hearing no further additions or corrections, if there is no objection, we will consider the agenda approved with these changes. Hearing no objection, the agenda stands approved as stated. In your delegate packet on page 39 and 40 is the information on the Delegate Assembly Minutes Approval Committee. As a result of the nominations forwarded to me by the regional vice presidents, the president is recommending the following members of the 2021 Delegate Assembly Minutes Approval Committee for this meeting. The chair will be Sophia Georgiaki. State delegate will be Jonathan Westberg. The affiliate delegate will be Louise Stevens. The affiliate president will be Marty Kellum. The AMATYC past president will be Nancy Sattler. And the AMATYC secretary as ex officio is Nancy Rivers. If there is no objection, we will consider the Delegate Assembly Minutes Approval Committee approved. Hearing no objection, the Delegate Assembly Minutes Approval Committee is approved as presented. I ask the members of this committee are asked to attend a brief meeting immediately following this Delegate Assembly, just so please stay on the Zoom after the Delegate Assembly is over. I'm reporting the minutes of the 2020 Delegate Assembly minute held virtually has been reviewed, corrected, and approved by the 2020 Delegate Assembly Minutes Approval Committee, chaired by Sophia Georgiaki. The minutes can be found beginning on page 21 in your packet. We will next go on to reports. The president's report is on page 41 and 42 of the delegate packet. I'm pleased to report that the total registration of the in-person component of the conference was 595, including guests, and for the virtual component of the conference was an additional 113 attendees. Are there any questions for the president? Please put your name in the chat with your delegate status. On page 43 through 49, you will find the treasurer's report. Are there any questions for Treasurer Barbara Steinhurst? Please put in the chat your name and delegate status. Seeing none, on page, thank you, Madam Treasurer. On page 50 and 51 is the AMATYC Foundation report. Are there any questions on the foundation report for past President Jim Ham? Please put in the chat your name and delegate status. Thank you, Mr. Past President. On page 52 through 61 is the report on strategic planning. Are there any questions for President-elect Laura Watkins on the strategic planning report? Please put your name and the delegate status in the chat. The conference site selection report is on page 62. There were no site selections this year due to our agreeing to return to Spokane with last year's conference was canceled. We plan to return to Spokane in 2027. Are there any questions for President-elect Laura Watkins on the site selection report? Please put your name in the chat. Thank you, Madam President-elect. That is the end of our reports. As we move into new business, I remind you the rules of conduct on page 38. All persons.
Excuse me, Kate?
Yes.
We have a comment in the Q&A. It suggested that you wait just a little bit longer for people to type in the chat if they're going while formulating their question, name, delegate status, and so forth.
Sounds great.
A
Thank
suggestion.
you.
Yep.
Thank you. I will do that from now on. So it'll be a little bit longer pause for here on out. Thank you very much for that. All right. As we move into new business, I remind you of the rules of conduct on page 38. All persons who speak must give their name, delegate status, and if they are speaking the pro, con, or a process comment in the chat before speaking. We will alternate pro and con speakers if there are different viewpoints. Otherwise, speakers will be recognized until all speakers have had a chance to speak. No speaker may speak to a motion more than 2 times. Initially, there will be a 5-minute limit on debate that can be changed by the chair or by the vote of the body. And as a reminder, each person will be given 2 minutes for when they're speaking. I invite Rachel Bates, Chair of the Placement and Assessment Committee, to place the motion on page 63 on the floor to approve the position statement on initial placement of students into the mathematics curriculum. Jim Ham will display the version of the document that has been submitted by the delegate approval, assembly approval. So Rachel, you can now speak.
Okay, are you able to see and hear me, Kate?
Yes, we are.
All right. So based on the feedback we got from the board, I'm going to make a motion that we return the position statement on initial placement of students into the mathematics curriculum to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Since this motion comes from a committee, it is not necessary to have a second. Madam Chair, do you wish to speak to the motion? Rachel, that would be you.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Kate. No, I don't.
Okay. Are there any other debate on this motion?
I don't have any other comments to provide, Kate.
Okay, thank you.
But there is a comment coming up in the chat.
She did say to return it to the motion back to the committee. Yes, Sophia. That was the motion that was been put in place. We can debate that motion itself. So we right now can debate the motion to return this this position statement back to the committee. I believe if you want to see the other person who's speaking, you would need to change the way you see change your view. So I see Leslie Banta. Can you please promote Leslie Banta? Leslie, go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, I was just wondering if we could know the reason why it was being sent back to the committee, why the committee did not want it discussed by the assembly.
Rachel, do you want to answer that?
As I understand it, the feedback that I received was the spirit of the position statement is there, but not the actual language that's being currently used was accepted, and that was the issue for us to continue the work in the committee.
So it was the board that asked you to rescind it. It wasn't actually a committee decision.
I'm not sure that I know that, but I'll say that because the position statement was being accepted, not the language, as the PAC chair, I decided it would be best to have the committee continue working on the existing position statement, so we do get board approval as well.
And so feedback from the delegates would not be helpful.
I'm sorry, Kate, I couldn't hear her last comment.
I'm just wondering then, I mean, feedback from the delegates would not be helpful. I mean, initially, this is what your committee put forth.
We had multiple forums on this, and we have been working on this for over 2 years. It is a very small participation in this position statement draft. I did submit the revisions that we did make over those multiple forums. And again, the feedback I got from the board was that it's still not where it would be accepted.
Okay, so it was the board's decision to pull it then, more than the committee's.
No, again, I don't know how to answer that. I was told prior to the delegate assembly that there were still questions about the statement that the board did not feel comfortable with. So as the PAC chair, I'm deciding to go ahead and pull the position statement so that the committee continues to work on it.
Thank you.
And Kate, since you are our board liaison, could you also make comment to that? Are you in the position to do that as well, if I haven't clarified the comments?
I'm asking that of the parliamentarian right now. But I also see Ben Assenberg. Actually, I also saw Linda Blanco. Ben, would you like to talk?
I would. I'm just fiddling with my controls. So I'm speaking against this motion. I'd like to see where the delegate assembly stands on this position statement, and I don't really understand why the board is pushing back on this after 2 years of work. And I'd like to hear other delegates be able to speak their mind and hear what people have to say. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but if the position statement is voted down, then the same effect is accomplished, which is that the committee still needs to work on it, but with the added benefit of having had some opportunity to hear what's wrong with it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, if you can pause for just a moment. All right, I will actually speak because I am the board liaison to this. I will speak and let you know. So George Alexander would also like to speak to this, but he's a con, so I'm going to just like to speak a little bit before I let George Alexander. The board just had a little bit of problem with some of the ordering of it and wanted to just kind of reorganize some of it, make a couple other comments and changes. So we just didn't feel like it was perfectly ready, but it's pretty close. It's just there was a couple of things that we wanted to see a little changes made, mostly the ordering of it, and a couple other minor things. All right, George Alexander, can you promote him, please?
Kate, there are 2 George Alexanders on the participant list. I think one may be Linda Blanco. Linda, if you could change your name so I know which one to promote.
Okay. Yes, minor changes can be accomplished by a motion. That's what Leslie's asking, sorry. Can you promote both Georges, then we'll just let Linda talk?
Yes, I'm doing that.
So Linda, if you want to go ahead and talk, please.
Got it. Okay, sorry. I just now got some controls. Sorry. Yeah, I kind of agree with Ben. I would like to hear what other delegates may have to say, but my main concern is if this is very close, there's stuff in here that I really could be using with my admins, and I would like to say that this may not be perfect yet, but this is the gist of what AMATYC is going to be recommending. So that's why I'd like to kind of know what the status is, how close is close. And I'll try to figure out how to make myself not George. I don't know. Well, I kind of know how I got this.
Okay. I saw Marilyn Mays' name up. Can Marilyn please be promoted?
Marilyn, you can speak now.
Marilyn, can you unmute and speak? Marilyn, are you there? All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, Marilyn.
I couldn't figure out how to tune in. I was just going to say, those of us who have comments, I have several, but they're not of any, they're like there's a plural verb when I think it should be a singular verb, and a few things that are a little bit more advanced than that, but they're not anything that would change the whole, any particular statement that's being made. we could just send in our comments to the committee, can't we?
I believe once the delegate assembly approves this, it is the way it goes at that point, and
Well-
it is approved at that point and the way it is. So I believe we would have to go with what has this is written. So the chances to make any changes to it would have been either we send it back to committee and make those changes and bring it back next year, or we can approve it this year and then still make changes and make changes next year if we want to.
Okay, and
That's an
I thought if it went back to the committee as the chair of the committee requested, then it wouldn't be approved by the delegate assembly. But you all may have said something while I was busy trying to figure out how to turn on my mic. So
Right.
is it going to go back to the committee as Rachel requested, or what?
Well, we haven't voted on that yet, so it depends
Okay.
on what the vote is once we get to that point.
So we're still going to vote. Okay.
Yes,
I
we're still
got
going to vote. The motion is on the floor. We will have to vote on that motion.
That's fine.
All right, so there was a suggestion put in the chat to use the raise your hands. So if you'd raise your hands, that would put you at the top of the list. But I still need you, and I'm noticing a few of you are putting things in the chat to say you would like to talk about, but you're not telling me if you're pro or cons. And I have to do these in order of that, or if you're process. So I do know the next person up that was a con is Catherine Van Wagner. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
Okay. Kate, I don't know if this matters, but somebody is asked to call the question.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, okay. So,
Hi. Are we good? Are we good there? So I just want to speak also against the motion to send it back to the committee for the purpose of timeliness. As Linda had said, this that waiting another year for this position statement to be published and approved, I think would be unfortunate. So if there's some process that would allow it to come out, be approved sooner than a year from now, with giving it the opportunity to have some adjustments made to it, that would be wonderful. I don't know that that exists, but I'm wondering if it's maybe good enough for what our purposes are. So that's all I have.
okay, so we have a call the question. Waiting to hear, I need a second to that.
I will second it.
Okay. So we will have a vote on whether we should call the question. Oh, wait, we need a discussion on calling the question. So now we have discussion on calling the question. Does anybody want to talk about calling the question? That's the motion that's now on the floor to call the question.
Just to verify, call the question means asking for a vote.
Yes.
Kate, Leslie Banta has entered and she's con. I'm not clear if that's con to calling the question.
Okay. Can we promote Leslie, please?
Hi, I'm just against calling the question until after the delegates have discussed possible benefits of this and changes to this. I feel like this is trying to be pushed through pretty quickly without adequate discussion that honors the 2 years of work that the committee has done.
Okay. So we actually have to vote on the call the question since we've had one and a second motion and a second to that. So we will vote on whether we want to call the question. It actually is not debatable. So we were wrong. So I need to know if anybody, if you can put a thing in the, a vote up Pat, please, to call the question. A poll, sorry, a poll. So this motion on in front of you is to approve for the impromptu voting. Number one is to vote for calling the question. A yes vote would say you want to call the question, and no vote would mean you want to continue discussion. So call the question with a yes vote. So we will now go back to the motion on the floor, which the motion on the floor is to send it back to committee. A yes vote would send it back to committee. A no vote would allow it to not go back to committee. So this is approval of the placement and assessment motion to be sent back to committee. That is what you're voting on. A yes vote will send it back to committee. A no vote will not, and then we have to have a new motion put on the floor. Catherine asked if we can see the poll results. Actually, no, I don't even see the poll results. I'm just told whether or not they're approved or not. So the motion failed, so it will not go back to committee. So Rachel, do you want to put the motion on the floor to have it approved by the delegate assembly?
All right, let me get my script, Kate.
In mine too.
So I make a motion to approve the position statement on initial placement of students into the mathematics curriculum.
All right. Since this came from a committee, it does not need a second. Do you wish to speak to this motion, Madam Chair? That would be you.
Right. So as I understand the discussion, we would like to present the position statement as written for approval.
Okay. All right. Are there any debate on this motion to approve the position statement as written? So Linda Blanco, do you want to ask your question? I believe you're still promoted. Or is you not? I can't remember. Okay, no question. Okay. All right. Carolyn Sampson, are you a pro or con? I do need you to put in if you're pro or con into these, please. Into the chat. Okay, I'm seeing Mike Caprella. Can you please promote Mike Caprella? He's the next one who can speak. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Elizabeth Warren Weaver has a process question. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I minimized so I can see the screen again, and now I can't get back to where I can put my video on.
That's okay. You can talk without it.
There we go.
Okay.
So I just, if there were questions previously about why it was going to be sent back to the committee, can we talk about those rather than just saying it's ready now? That would be, I mean, I don't really know if that's pro or con. I just feel like we're not really doing the discussion part like we would normally do.
Okay. All right, Mike Caprilla, if you would like to speak.
Yes, thank you. I have an issue a little bit with the wording on this. It says that ensure that the vast majority of students can access gateway courses within their first year of enrollment. I believe we really need to define what is considered a gateway course. Some people consider college algebra a gateway course. Some people consider pre-calculus a gateway course. Others do not. And I have an issue with that, the way it's written right now. Thank you very much.
Okay. There is a definition of gateway course in this that just says a first credit bearing mathematics course required for an undergraduate degree. All right. Next pro is Carolyn Sampson.
I'm not sure this is a pro, but is there a way for us to vote on this and also recommend that the committee revise it for next year?
It's a good question. We can amend it right now. And next year they can bring it back if they'd rather do it that way. Sorry, if I seem delayed, it's because I'm going and looking to see what our parliamentarian has to say. All right, I have another con, Sophia Jajaki.
I would like to provide some feedback of what was discussed during the board meeting of why the board decided to not approve the motion as written, but just in spirit. So starting in the first sentence, it says appropriate placement into entry-level mathematics courses is a concern. And the board said it's actually a goal of higher education and not a concern. So we're not concerned about it. We just want to make it look good. So this particular position statement is trying to get us where we want to be. The next sentence has a negative tone. We wanted this to change to a positive tone. So not to say it must not be used to restrict access, but to basically explain why we think placement is important and what are the benefits of good placement. In rows 27 to 31, which obviously I can't see here, we had a redundant statement from what appears above. We wanted a complete line deleted right before that. So if this is 7, then 27 would be maybe faculty responsibilities or placement processes. I don't remember exactly what was lines 27 to 31. I don't see them here. We wanted a complete line, line 22 deleted from, I don't even know where that is. Evaluate placement procedures as mathematics faculty should be involved. I don't remember where it is. We said that in we said that there are some ambiguous statements about whether this is an institutional responsibility or a faculty responsibility. So when certain items are addressed regarding placement and assessment, it was not clear if this position statement asks the faculty to be responsible for this or the institutional to be responsible for this. In the next page, we discussed what is social and emotional assets. It is part of this position statement. We wanted the word pathway to be replaced by sequence or course. We wanted the definitions to come in the top so that we don't end up in situations like we just experienced where we don't understand what this position statement is trying to say. We wanted in lines 37 to 38 to have a stronger statement. The math department should be able to contribute instead of should be consulted or must be consulted, or I don't remember exactly the statement. So we didn't think that the statement is positive, is expressing what AMATYC wants this position statement to say, and it wasn't allowing the math department to be a significant contributor in this, in the whole concept of placement and assessment.
Thank you, Sophia. Next person who would like to speak. I believe we're beyond our time, but if without objection, I will extend the time. 5 minutes. Seeing no objection, we extend time 5 minutes. The next pro was Linda Blanco. Linda, you want to speak?
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to hit the mute. Okay, or the unmute. I would like to propose the amendment to the original motion so that we amend to say that the committee could revisit and bring us an edited version again next year. My argument in favor of doing so is that I think we need a statement now, and the things that are brought up are great ideas, but they are for the most part cosmetic and editorial, not substantive, things that would strengthen what we have. But right now we don't have something, and some of us really desperately need something to go to our admins with. And if we're not going to change substance, I would like to see us vote on this now, amend the current motion so that we can ask the committee to revisit and make those editorial cosmetic changes to make it more powerful and better next year.
Okay, I'm checking with the parliamentarian to see exactly how we would do that, but I would like to promote Sarah Van Aston is the next con speaker.
Yes, thank you. I am very against this specifically for a sentence at the end of, I think, the second paragraph. Ensure that the vast majority of students can access gateway courses within their first year of enrollment. This is dictating the curriculum of an individual campus in a statement that's supposed to be about placement. If your campus doesn't have this there yet, it's not even an option for some people. And also it kind of dictates, it makes a lot of assumptions about the student population of a particular campus. And so for this to say that they want to ensure that the majority of our students are getting into a gateway course within their first year is just a giant overreach in my mind of a statement on placement. Placement should be about getting students in the correct class. This position should not be dictating what that correct class is. Thank you.
Okay, so before Ben speaks, I do want to just let you know the next process. Since Linda brought up kind of a process, we can either pass the motion that's on the floor, we can amend the motion on the floor and send it back to, or we can send it to committee for next changes next year. So we can amend this motion that's on the floor. We'd have to vote on that to send it down and add to that to send to committee for next year. We can also, yes, Don, can you unmute and please speak to this, since you know better than I do.
And it is getting a little complicated here, so I thought it's unusual for a parliamentarian to speak up in a meeting, but I thought it might help things along here. You've got a motion on the floor, which is to approve this position statement. This position statement can be amended from the floor. Now, amendments can become complicated. I think that was what was behind the idea of sending it to committee to begin with, but you've already voted that down. So you can amend this current one. And if you pass this one, either as is or with amendments, there is nothing to prevent you from then appointing a committee for next year to update it. Okay, you could also vote this one down and still appoint a committee to work on I would call it a similar statement for next year. So you're not really locking yourself into anything. It's just a matter of getting things lined up for how to deal with it right now. But does that kind of make sense?
I believe that makes sense. I do see that Linda says that she has an amendment that needs a second and hers was seconded. Linda, I need to know exactly what your amendment is. Can you type it in the chat of exactly what you want that amendment to say and what has been seconded?
And I saw a question about, can the motion be amended? The motion is to approve this position statement. So I would say the position statement can be amended.
All right, so you amend to approve the position statement, but ask the committee to revisit and provide feedback next year. All right.
That's
so
legitimate.
That is legitimate. Okay, so this was moved and seconded. So we can now have a, so we can now go ahead. Thank you, Laura. I was going to do the exact same thing. We can now go ahead and have a debate on that motion. Sorry, Ben, we're going to debate that motion before we have your, well, yeah, we have to amend, we have to vote on the amendment to amend the motion, and then we can go back to the original motion. So, Ben, I believe yours was on the original motion, correct? All right, so Ben, you would like to speak to this? The original motion is on the floor, yes, David.
So I'm
go ahead.
speaking to the motion that is currently under debate about amending the motion to include the send back. And I think that's a reasonable compromise. I still think that this is a tremendous improvement over the current position statement, which actually does exist on the website, and I encourage people to look at it. I think that, you know, the concerns such as Sarah raised are not to be ignored, but I don't think that we're so far from publishing this that we should push it back for another year. So I agree with the amendment.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to the amendment of the motion, either pro or against? And David Tanner had asked, was the original motion on the floor? Yes, the original motion was put on the floor. We have a call to question. I would need a second to that. All right, so there's a motion and a second to call the question. And there's a lot of seconds. So we will have a vote on whether or not we will call the question. So we will now have a vote on whether to call the question to then vote on the amendment to the motion.
Just for clarification, this is Pat Riley. Because these motions were not notified ahead of time, it's going to come on the screen as impromptu motion number 2, and the exact motion will be recorded for the minutes.
Okay, so the exact motion is to call the question. So you're voting to call the question to stop debate, basically, is what this is. So a yes would stop debate. A no would be to continue debate. Okay. Oh, Pat, was that your yes to call the question? Okay, so call the question passed. So we will now call the question on whether amending the motion, the amendment to the motion that we are voting on, this is what we will be voting on, is to amend the motion to approve the position statement, but ask the committee to revisit and provide feedback for next year. So we will vote on that motion. So this is a motion to amend the motion to approve the position statement, but ask the committee to revisit and provide feedback next year. A yes will amend the motion to say this, a no will not amend the motion. The call to the question motion was made by Carolyn Sampson.
This will be called impromptu motion number 3.
Thank you.
Kate, there's a couple of requests for someone to read the motion or say the motion again.
So the motion we are voting on right now is to amend the motion to say to approve the position statement, but ask the committee to revisit and provide feedback next year. And that was approved. So we're now to the amended motion. The amended motion. Actually, I do not have the vote results, and we actually don't need the votes, as my parliamentarian has told me. We don't actually need to give the numbers. So all right, so that amendment has passed. So we're now going to go back to the original amended motion. The amended motion that is now on the floor is to approve the position statement as is, but ask the committee to revisit and provide feedback next year. Is there any more debate on this question? I'm not seeing any, so shall we vote on the amended motion to approve the position statement on placement and assessment as written, and then request that and ask the committee to revisit and provide feedback next year.
Chris Orline has a process question.
Yes, Chris. Can you please promote Chris? Chris, what's your question, please?
So if we approve this the way it's amended, and let's say it goes back to the committee and the committee says, nah, we like the way it is. Are people who wanted them to revisit it going to be happy? Because they're not going to present anything next year if they revisit it and decide they like it the way it is. Or are we going to ask the committee to present whatever they do, even if it's no change, for another approval next year?
Okay, unfortunately, I did have a second a call to the question and a second to call the question. So we need to vote on that.
Y'all are killing me. I'm just saying.
John Bennett called the question. He is a state delegate from North Carolina. And we had a seconded. So we do need to vote on calling the question, unless you would like to continue debate. We do have another pro person. No?
And Kate, maybe the parliamentarian could answer this question that's been posted in the Q&A about giving the vote counts.
May I speak to that, Madam
Yes,
President?
please, Don.
Yeah.
Please, Parentalian.
Okay, typical process is you don't give the numbers. If we were face to face, any member could request what's called a rising vote. That's where you doubt the outcome of a vote. And then you ask people who are in favor to stand and then sit down. People who are opposed stand and you take a count. Now we're not face to face. So the equivalent would be for Pat to let the president know that what the numbers are, and the president can report those numbers. Now, if you doubt the outcome, that would be the time to ask for a number. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And I see the question from David Tenner. You can ask for that number each time. Yes. And if the president so chooses, the president can just do it on her own initiative.
All right. I will be giving vote counts from now on, since that seems to be a comment being made. So we do have a call to the question, and we had a second for the call to the question. So we need to vote on calling the question.
And this will be impromptu motion number 4.
So this, by the way, I should say, yes vote would basically say we're going to call the question and end debate on the motion, amended motion, and a no vote would continue debate. Okay, so we are now going to vote on the amended motion. So the amended motion is, I will read it, make sure we have it down. Or actually, can the secretary read it, please?
When I can get to my notes here, hang on one second. The chat keeps popping in the wrong way. All right, here's what I have for the amended motion. That the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the position statement entitled Initial Placement of Students into the Mathematics Curriculum, but ask the committee to revisit and provide feedback next year.
All right, that is the motion that is on the floor now. So we will now vote on that motion. If you would vote in the Zoom poll when it comes up. Jeff, what was your question about? Can you promote Jeff, please? We are in the midst of voting, so. Jeff, what is your question on process?
I'm sorry, it can wait until after the vote. My question was regarding, you seem to be answering questions that are asked of you in chat that not everyone is seeing. I was going to ask if everyone could make their chat to everyone and not just the panelists. I would appreciate that.
Thank you very much. I did not notice they were just to the panelists. Thank you.
Some of them are just to you because I'm not seeing them either.
Okay. So make all things to that. All right. So notice that the motion has passed, that this position statement has passed, with it coming back after after the committee has looked at it next year. I would like to thank the committee for their work on this. Rachel, I would like to thank you for spearheading this ahead and for your work in ushering this position statement through the process. All right.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. All right. All right, so Sophia asked a question about them being posted in question and answer, not in the chat. Questions can be posted in either place. We are watching both places, but I prefer them to be in the chat. And then there is a problem with sometimes questions can't be always seen in the question and answer. So make sure that you kind of do your questions in the chat, and that would be great. And make sure you've done it for all hosts and panelists. All right. We will move on. I invite Catherine Van Wagner, Chair of the Developmental Mathematics Committee, to place the motion on page 66 on the floor, the position statement on co-requisite mathematics courses. Jim Ham will display the version of the document that is being submitted by the Delegate Assembly approval.
I'm coming. I would like to move that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the posted position statement, which is entitled Co-Requisite Mathematics Courses.
All right, since this motion comes from a committee, it is not necessary to have a second. Madam Chair, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Sure. This position statement came by request through the board that members were asking for AMATYC to speak on the idea of co-requisites. And just a little bit of background, quote, co-requisites and pathways. And the people who worked on this project determined that separate position statements would be ideal. And this is the work that we've done for the co-requisite statement.
Thank you very much. Are there any debate on this? Is there any debate on this? Should use correct English. I am not seeing any. All right. Shall we vote on it then, please? Can you put the vote up for this? To vote on the motion that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached position statement entitled Co-Requisite Mathematics Courses. Yes, the poll was not exactly written exactly the way it is, but it is co-requisite mathematics courses. All right, as you can see, this motion passed. Catherine, I would like to thank you and the committee, the Development of Mathematics Committee, for all your work on ushering this position statement through the process. Thank you very much. All right, I invite Helen Byrne, Chair of the Pathways Subcommittee, to place the motion on page 69 on the floor, Mathematics Pathway. Jim Ham will display the document that is being submitted for the Delegate Assembly approval.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for inviting me here. I'd like to make a motion to the AMATYC Delegate Assembly that we approve the attached position statement entitled Mathematics Pathway with minor edits as noted.
Okay, since this motion comes from a subcommittee, it is not necessary to have a second. Madam Chair, would you wish to speak to the motion?
I do wish to speak.
Go ahead.
Thank you. The spirit of this position statement is to endorse Mathematics Pathways as an organization, to describe the movement, the rationale for the movement, and to provide a set of recommendations that are aimed at the program level. We wrote these recommendations so that mathematics faculty could approach their administration to champion math pathways and to use the recommendations as guidance on how to proceed. At the fall board meeting, the board endorsed the spirit of the position statement, but not as written. I want to thank Dr. Atkinson for providing the feedback. Some of their feedback was minor edits. Jim, if you'd scroll up, I can explain those. They're in the track changes in blue here. They wanted us to clarify what we meant by the algebra intensive mathematics pathway. In a previous version, we had called out STEM, but we took it out, so we put that back in. We also made statements based on different research about the need for additional pathways, and we didn't want to be exclusive. So we inserted the word including and included things like business. If you could scroll down a little bit more, please, Jim, you can pass the Bickerstaff reference. Keep scrolling down. Another minor editing was, keep going, please. To make changes, that blue in the bullet about evaluating, there was some feedback about wanting to clarify why would you actually evaluate, because you'd want to make changes based on what is and is not working. And then 2 bullets above that, there was a comment that there were 2 ideas in that bullet. That was the bullet that's on line 47, promote student completion of the Gateway Mathematics course within 1 year by aligning developmental courses to college level math courses. We also had a statement in there about tutoring and access to faculty office hours. During our annual meeting in AMATYC last week in Phoenix, we had some time to work on this. And so we did kind of these minor edits at the time and settled on that. The board also made comments that they felt like some of our recommendations were not supported in the rationale. So that's a more substantive comment. So I want to speak to that for a moment. So in reading, Jim, if you could just scroll up so that we can see all the recommendations on a single page. I'm sorry, yeah, right here. These starting on line 38. These are our recommendations. Now, some of these are, we feel, in the rationale. We talked about this at our annual meeting, and we also have done some work this last week. For example, the first recommendation about offering pathways for students in all programs of study, that's addressed in impact, and that's addressed upstairs in the intro paragraph and in the rationale. And then we also thought the 5th bullet, 1, 2, 3, which start on line 47. The idea of needing to align developmental courses, that was also addressed. But I want to address this maybe perceived disconnect that some of these recommendations are not really fully addressed upstairs. Right now, to date, there is no rigorous research on math pathways. The only thing that we have is research on pathways implementations. That's usually case study research. The only rigorous research we have about pathways is research on the problems that pathways are intended to solve. So these recommendations that we have around securing funding to help pathways, to get pathways to work on your campus, and the need to align advising and placement practices. This comes from research on implementing mathematics pathways and recommendations that come from that research. So at our annual meeting, we decided to stand behind these recommendations as a committee. There were, gosh, we had about 20 people at our annual meeting. And then in the forum that we had before this, the hearing was also really well attended. So what we decided to do was add citations from this research on implementing math pathways. And we cite 2 pieces. So Jim, if you'd scroll up a little bit, all the way up. Thank you. If you go to the rationale paragraph, please. So we added a little bit in line 23. These are two pieces from both from researchers from the Teachers College, the Community College Research Center. And then we also added a piece from Rebecca Hartzler and our own Ricky Blair that's actually coming out of the Dana Center to kind of add it into the rationale. But the challenge is these two research pieces from implementation research, they apply to many of the recommendations. There's a lot of overlap. So stylistically, we made a choice that rather than expanding the text in the rationale, or rather than putting numerous parenthetical citations after each recommendation, to ease readability, we settled on this approach at our meeting last week, that we would, starting at line 33, that we would enhance our recommendation and say, therefore, AMATYC makes these recommendations for mathematics programs around implementing mathematics pathways at their college based on impact and research and implementing math pathways. And then we cite the bigger staff, the Ganga and Mazareo, and the Hartzler and Blair.
All right, Helen, we're out of time.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm done.
Okay, without objection, I will extend time for 5 more minutes to allow people to ask questions or comment on debate this. So if you would like to debate this position statement, please put your comments in the, please put your name and pro or con in the chat. I'm not seeing any comments. I would like to go ahead and vote on this. So I'd like to have a vote. If Pat, if you would please bring the Zoom poll up. This is to approve the mathematics pathways motion. I will make the comment that not always are the polls exactly the wording of what we're voting on, because it's just too much work for our Pat to put them all in there, but they're basically the same motion we have. And the motion is on the floor is to that the Delegate Assembly approve the position statement entitled Mathematics Pathway with minor edits as noted. Okay, as you can see, the motion does pass. So thank you. The position statement on mathematics pathway as changed with minor edits has been approved. Helen, I would like to thank you and the pathway subcommittee for all your work to usher this process through the approval process.
You're welcome, President Kozak, and I appreciate your support and the support of everyone.
Thank you so much. All right, I now invite Jennifer Ackerman, the chair of the Innovation Teaching and Learning Committee, the ITLC, to place the motion on page 73 on the floor. This is the proctored testing and controlled assessment for courses taught at a distance. Jim Ham will display the version of the document that will be submitted to the Delegate Assembly for approval.
Thank you, Madam President. ITLC has worked to update the existing position statement that you
Actually,
can
you put it on the floor first?
Oh, thank you, Kate. So sorry, I just got ahead of myself.
That's okay.
The motion is that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached position statement entitled Proctored Testing and Controlled Assessments for Courses Taught at a Distance with minor edits as noted, and have it replace the position statement called Proctored Testing for Courses Taught at a Distance.
Since this motion comes from a committee, it is not necessary to have a second. Madam Chair, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So ITLC has worked to update the existing statement that you can find on amatyc.org. I'd like to thank the subcommittee that has worked steadily over the past 2 years to update the existing statement. And I appreciate the forum attendees who voiced their support for the revisions, but especially those who brought their concerns that led to the changes that provided a greater emphasis on equity elements and the controlled assessments. This motion contains a few minor edits from what was originally submitted based on feedback from the board and attendees at the ITLC meeting in Phoenix. The amended version is posted on the myamatics.org in the Delegate Assembly 2021 community. So anything that was a change appears in red, and the areas that are highlighted in yellow represent where the wording is the same, but it was reordered to improve the statement and address concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any further debate? Seeing no comments, please vote using the Zoom poll. Oh, wait,
Hey,
I'm
there's
sorry.
a question.
Sorry. Yes, I just saw it. Frank, Marfi. Sorry, Marfi. If you would please be promoted and you can ask your questions. I apologize for not seeing that ahead of time.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you.
So I have a question that's actually at the very, very end of it. So I don't know if this question was addressed or not. In terms of the references, you have references and sources. Is that true, or has it all become references?
Okay, I believe that it was changed to be APA format. So I guess the answer, Frank, is I'm not completely sure. Okay. The references are APA format and directly referenced within the body of the document. And I think the sources provided information in our writing of.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I guess where my question would be, because I'm very much, I don't know whether it's a for or con, because mostly it's a friendly question, is if it's not actually in the position statement, are the source, is there a way to incorporate the sources or the sources that were used into part of the position statement, or just simply deleting the sources themselves, just because the position statement itself is with respect to the references used? I don't know if that makes any sense what I'm saying, but that is my question.
It does make sense, and I don't have the answer. I can ask.
Because that would be my friendly amendment, just, delete the sources if they're not actually actively incorporated into the position statement.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy Statler, past president. She would like to make a clarification. Nancy?
It takes a few minutes, I guess, for it to kick in. I want to say that as a committee, I actually worked with the APA format for all the position statements. And if the sources, we talked about those, leaving those down there at the bottom, because I believe the committee plans on creating a resource page on MyAMATYC where there would be resources for people to go to read more about proctor testing and what the literature is saying. And so they could actually, in the format of other position statements, those could actually be removed, but they will be part of a discussion that would happen in MyAMATYC. So it is different in that all of the upcoming position statements that we have had in the last last year and this year is written in APA format. APA 7 just changed, and the AMATYC impact document was written in APA. So the word references is now used, and only references are listed under references that that are cited. That's what APA 7 says. So the committee had these sources because there's good information and background information that was used for the statement.
Okay. Linda Blanco.
Hi, I would like to just say I'm pro keeping this as is. I appreciate what Frank said, but personally, if I go to my admins with something, I would like them to see those sources, because then it's not just a bunch of AMATYC members decided this, but there are other sources that can be cited, and they could go to those sources as needed. So that's my pro statement. Thanks.
Elizabeth Weaver, would you like to speak about that, or you just, I don't know if Frank was actually doing one, or you're just asking to you're just letting people know that. All right, so Carrie Muir is next because she's a con, and then Elizabeth Weaver will be next after that.
I just want to voice my ongoing concerns with the section that specifically says things like these assessments should comprise a meaningful portion, 50% or more of the course grades. I believe that is inappropriately specific and heavy-handed as directions to give to any department or faculty member. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead.
Kate, it was raised in the question and answer, the issue with sources, is that something that could be addressed with editing, professional editing after the approval of the motion, or
yes.
Is that
yes.
some, okay.
Yes, so that is something we will deal with after that, but whether to include one or not, that's a separate issue, but how they're written is done by the professional editor, and Nancy Sattler is also offering to help with that. So next was Elizabeth Weaver.
Yes, hi. So I think that if the sources are that important, then they should be referenced, or even at least listed as part of a literature review section or something along those lines. Otherwise, as was already stated, APA doesn't want you putting anything that wasn't actually referenced as a source or listed at the end. So that was my comment there. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Karen Sarri.
Hi, Karen Sarri here.
Sorry.
I am also opposed for the same reason of it being too specific in leading as far as assessments comprising 50% or more of the course grade, partially because I don't think some assessments are recognized that really do assess student learning, and they might not be viewed as assessments. So who is to define what 50% or more is? I think that's too specific for our broad aims that we need here.
Okay. George Alexander.
Hello, thank you, Madam President. I agree with the concerns raised by Karen and Carrie. That line on the proctored, or the line 8788. I'd like to offer a motion that we delete that one sentence that reads, "These amendments should comprise a meaningful portion, 50% or more of the course grade." My primary reason for doing so is that we have another position description that specifically identifies what controlled assessments and proctoring should entail. I'll offer that as an motion to amend by deleting one sentence.
George, could you write that in chat, please, for me?
Yes.
All right, as soon as George finishes that, we do have that motion. We do have an amendment to the motion. So we will now be debating that motion. So the motion to amend is to delete the sentence on lines 87 through 88 that reads the assessment should comprise a meaningful portion, 50% or more of the course grade. So we are now debating that motion, that amendment, sorry.
I think I need a
George.
second on it.
Yes, you can speak to it, George.
I think I need a second on the motion.
No, there was one.
Okay, I missed that while I was typing.
Yes. All right, George Hurlbert would like to speak as a con to that. George, are you up?
Yes, thank you. I would like to point out that that line about the controlled assessments containing at least 50% is in the current document. It was not a change from what's currently in our position statement. I'd also just like to think about doing the math. If 50% means if a student has an 80% average on their at-home work, that means they would only need a 30% average on controlled assessments to receive a C in a class. And I don't think that I would ever allow a student to get a C in a class with only 30% of their proctored assessments at an average of 30%. I just think that's absurdly low. So personally, I think the meaningful portion should be significantly higher than 50%. Thank you.
All right, so I would like to remind people to please not put things into the chat besides that you wish to talk about something. When you put too much into there, it's very difficult on me. I'm missing people. Kelly Spoon wanted to speak to the original motion. I'm assuming we're working on the amendment right now. I would like to continue on with the amendment. I do see that Vicky Mayfield would like to speak as a con. Is there any pros to the amendment?
Hi, yeah, I'm opposed to taking that out because it hurts us with arguing our administration for having proctoring available. We're struggling right now to have proctoring even available to us for whether it's distant courses or people who miss a test and need to take it at another time. And we need something that says this much of our course needs to be proctored or controlled controlled assessment, sorry.
Okay, Carolyn Sampson, can you please put her up? Carolyn Sampson, are you available yet? Okay. Carolyn, can you? There you go.
Sorry, like when I get promoted to moderator, my screen does strange things and my Zoom disappears.
Oh, how interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so I think we're getting stuck on the idea of proctored testing being the only form of assessment. And for the many of us who teach in flipped classrooms, the bulk of my assessment happens during their daily activities, which they complete in front of my eyes, so I know that they're not Googling them. So I am in favor of removing that statement because it appears to have too much of a lean toward tests as the only viable form of assessment.
All right. All right, so that was. All right, so next person up is, that was Carolyn who just spoke. The next person up for a con is AJ Sackle. I know, Kelly, you're a pro. So I have to.
I was con on the amendment and I was gonna say something.
Oh,
I
I'm sorry. I
said
saw you
con
just
and-
saying it to con. Okay, so Kelly, go ahead. I'm sorry, Kelly. I missed that you put con afterwards. Yes.
I was just going to speak to Carolyn's statement. This statement is about courses taught at a distance. This is not about a flipped classroom where you're doing part of this with your students in front of you. So I just wanted to clarify. And I also think that as this was edited, because I've seen the variations of it, and I went to the ITLC meeting at AMATYC, they have really reworded it so it always says controlled assessment more than proctored tests. So it does not, it's not saying you need a proctored test. It doesn't even say it needs to be a test. And so I just want to clarify that this is not necessarily about tests, but it would give someone the ability to say they need a proctoring center or they need software if they wanted that sort of support from this sort of letter. So that was my statement.
Okay. Linda Blanco, did you get to talk as a pro yet?
I will just amplify what was just said. That was going to be my comment as well. It said control, whatever the wording was, they're controlled. It doesn't have to be proctored tests. It had to be controlled assessments. And the fact that it's online, this doesn't apply to a flipped classroom. Thanks.
All right, we have a bunch of cons people in place. So we're going to go next with Nancy Rivers. I'm sorry, AJ Shackle is the next con.
And I believe this is still for the motion of removing the 50% or more.
Yes, it is for the amendment to the motion.
So the reason I am con against removing that is because for issues of transfer, which we have in abundance, if it doesn't solidly state that our controlled assessments, that we're very careful and methodical about how we're assessing students, is 50% or more, I'm worried that equity issues will arise and it won't transfer. And I think this is also mentioned later on in this this statement. And I believe that's probably why it's in there from the committee itself.
Okay, thank you. I do have Vicky Flanders, who's now a pro. So again, we are alternating cons and pros. So Vicky Flanders. Vicky Flounder, are you there? Flanders?
She's asking how she
Yes,
speaks.
I am here now. Okay, I'm trying to figure this out. I am a pro for leaving this in. I believe in, I actually have 75% of my online courses proctored. Their assessments are proctored, only 25% is not. So I'm even for raising that percentage, but for what this says right here, I'm definitely for at least 50% to be proctored. And I agree with other delegates saying about integrity and talking about transferability of courses. And all these different issues are very important. And so, again, I'm for leaving the at least 50% or more.
Okay, so actually that means you're a con to the amendment. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So, okay, but that's my stance. So I apologize if I'm
That's okay.
not correct with
All
the
right.
pro/con. Okay.
Nancy, and we're okay. Go ahead, Nancy. Rivers.
I was just going to say basically the same thing others have said. The existing statement says 50% from proctored testing only. This statement broadens that to at least 50% from controlled assessments. Proctored testing is a controlled assessment, but it's not the only one, and that's what this position statement is saying. So I'm against the amendment.
All right, I don't see any other pros. Oh wait, George Alexander's pro?
Yes, I'd like one more chance to say that the intent of my amendment is to clean up the document, not to say whether the proctored testing is required or not required. We have a second position statement on proctored testing that should apply even without this language in here. So having the duplication in this document is messy and difficult to amend anything in the future. And I think that the specific details like this should only be in the proctored testing document.
Okay. All right, so we do have a call to the question. It was seconded. So we will now be voting on a call to the question. The call to the question was made by Jeff Huron, who's the Kentucky AMATYC president. So we will vote on calling the question. Calling the question yes means that you want to end debate on this amendment. Vote on the amendment. I vote no means that you want to continue debate, continuing on the amendment to the motion. The vote is to end debate. It's to call the question on amending the motion. A yes will end debate, a no will continue debate. So we are ending the debate. We will now vote on the motion itself. The motion is to amend the original motion to remove the statement, the assessment can comprise a meaningful portion, 50% or more of the course grade.
We're voting on the amendment.
We're voting on the amendment. We're voting on to amend the motion to have this position statement striking that the assessment should comprise a meaningful portion, 50% or more of the course grade. So that's the amendment. That will, all that will do is add this to the remove this from the position statement. All right, so the amendment failed. That means that statement will stay in the position statement. So we now go back to the original position statement. And I believe Kelly Spoon wanted to talk to the original motion.
I think my initial statement is still there, that this is about distance education. And I really appreciate that the ITLC committee worked to change the wording of this to include controlled assessments as well as proctor testing. So I think this is a huge step up from the current statement on proctor testing. So if you have problems with it, this is leaps and bounds better than what is currently on the AMATYC website for a position on this.
Okay, Nicole Lang would like to have a clarification question.
So my understanding is that this position statement would replace the current position statement on proctored testing. And
Yes.
so I was wondering about the other information that was referred to, I think, by George Alexander, if he was referring to that current statement, which this would replace. It's just a question.
Yes, this would replace that current statement. So that current statement, which is on the AMATYC website, would be replaced with this one because that was the motion that was put in place by Jennifer.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions on the original motion? The original motion on the floor is to that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached position statement entitled Proctored Testing and Controlled Assessment for Courses Taught at a Distance with minor edits as noted, and have it replace the position statement called Proctored Testing for Courses Taught at a Distance. Yes, George is right. George makes a comment. He's talking about there's a statement on proctoring itself. Judy Atkinson would like to make a clarification. Sorry, it takes us a little bit of time to promote people up and down. So just give us a moment. Go ahead, Judy.
Hi, sorry, my thing did the same thing where it booted me out and then brought me back in. I just wanted to clarify the statement that the other clarification that was just made. So does that mean if this replaces the statement on proctoring, then this is only referring to distance? So will we not have a statement on proctoring in general?
So that statement was on proctored testing for courses taught at a distance. This would actually be replacing that statement, yes. So it wouldn't be on just on that. Nancy, do you want to answer that? Do you have a comment or clarification?
Yeah, I just want to say that George's comment in the chat mentions the distance ed statement. This has nothing to do with the distance education statement. This position statement replaces the proctored testing for courses taught at a distance statement. I don't believe we have a position statement on proctored testing in general, only on classes taught at a distance.
And we do not have a statement on proctoring itself.
Okay, thank you. So then, all right, I understand now. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions, either pro or con, or process for the statement? For the motion that's on the floor, which is to approve the proctored testing and controlled assessment for courses taught at a distance statement and replace it with the proctored testing for courses taught at a distance statement. All right, not seeing any more discussion, we shall vote on the original motion that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached position statement entitled Proctored Testing and Controlled Assessments for Courses Taught at a Distance and have replaced the position statement called Proctored Testing for Courses Taught at a Distance. But that is the motion that's on the floor. Please vote to, yes, we'll approve this as the new position statement and replace the old one. A no would not replace this one, would not approve this one. All right. As you can see, the motion passes. And so the position statement on proctored testing and controlled assessment for courses taught at a distance has been approved. Jennifer, I'd like to thank you and the ITLC for all your work to usher this position statement through the approval process. Okay, next I would invite Jeff Thies, who chaired the task force which developed the position statement, to place the motion on page 76 on the floor. The position statement is the course materials for teaching and learning. Jim Ham will display the version of the document that is being submitted for the delegate assembly approval. Jeff, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep. Sorry about that. Operating on my phone, so it's a added challenge.
All right. Would you like to put the
A
motion?
motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I motion that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached position statement entitled Course Materials for Teaching and Learning Mathematics, with minor edits as noted, which replaces the position statement called Undergraduate Textbooks and the resolution called Resolution Regarding Textbooks.
Mr. Chair, do you wish to, since this came from a committee, it does not need a second. Mr. Chair, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do. The minor edits of note, line 1, we added mathematics to the end of the title. And on line 48, we changed the term equity to opportunity to better define the gap that we listed in the position statement. Both the undergraduate textbook position statement and the resolution regarding textbooks were last reaffirmed in 2013. The new title and content reflect the transition from print textbooks to the wide range of course learning materials used in today's courses. The position statement has gone through 2 open virtual forums and 2 board reviews.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussions, debate on this? I would like to remind you, if you could to really help things out, if you could please raise your hand at the same time that you put your name in the chat. That way people, the webinar coordinator can find you easier. That would be very helpful. So are there any comments or questions to debate this position statement?
No, let me take
All
that
right,
off.
Mark Kellum, would you like to speak a con?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make the comment that as a mathematician, I'm very kind of skeptical of wording that doesn't have really well-defined things. And the issue I have here is affordability. I don't know that shouldn't be a little bit better defined, because it really is going to have a lot of play in it. And I don't know that we can, if there's really anything that can be done there, but I did just want to kind of draw attention to the fact that that's not well defined and may mean different things to different places. So just wanted to mention that.
All right, thank you. If you'd like to speak to this motion, this debate, if you'd like to debate this, please put your name in there. We have a clarification from Chris Ward. Go ahead, Chris.
I just wanted to get a clarification because the motion is about the resolution of textbooks, but is that supposed to be the resolution of the textbook selling? And I'm trying to pull up the other screen here.
I thought we had the right title to it, but maybe.
Because the resolution on site says textbook selling gratuities for adoption.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up the position statements online also. You're right, we do have the wrong title. Thank you so much. So,
Kate, can I clarify?
yes, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so the title that is listed on the website is the older version. And then when you link to the actual resolution, it has this title that we've used.
Oh, thank you so much.
It is the only remaining resolution that I'm aware of.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions or on this debate of this? Carolyn Sampson?
I'm looking at the line, course materials must be mathematically correct and precise, line 14. I think that is going to, or that should eliminate certain very expensive materials that have a lot of errors in them and are the reason I will not use those materials. And so I find that statement incredibly valuable for convincing some of my colleagues to maybe branch out a little and try something new for the first time in, say, 15 years.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? I would like us to go ahead and vote on this then. So a yes vote would approve the course material, that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached position statement entitled Course Material for Teaching and Learning, Mathematics with minor edits as noted, and have it replace the position statement called Undergraduate Textbooks and the resolution called Resolution Regarding Textbooks. A yes will approve this as a position statement, and no will not approve it. All right, as you can see, the motion has passed. So the motion to approve has been approved. Thank you. The position statement on course materials for teaching and learning, which replaces the position statement called undergraduate textbooks, and the resolution called resolution regarding textbooks, has been approved. Jeff, I would like to thank you and the task force to review undergraduate textbook position statements and textbooks for all your work to usher this position statement through the approval process. All right. I would like to now invite Christine Marbaha, Leader of the Division and Department Leadership, ANET, to place the motion on page 82 on the floor to approve the position statement on academic preparation of mathematics faculty teaching in the first 2 years of college. Jim Ham will display the version of the document that has been submitted for the Delegate Assembly approval.
Okay, hello. It's taking me a second. Okay, so I would like to approve move that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached position statement entitled Academic Preparation of Faculty Teaching Mathematics in the First 2 Years of College, as it is presented.
Since this motion comes from a committee, it is not necessary to have a second. Madam Leader, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I do. First of all, this would replace the current position statement on academic preparation that has been there. Last year at the Delegate Assembly, we brought this forth in a different version, and it was sent back to the committee in order to reword it. An invitation at that time was put forth to everybody, asking them to please join. And the subcommittee was formed based on the people who actually responded. We've worked through this. It's a very, there's a lot of debate around this. I will admit that. And so the committee has put forth what they feel is the best statement for mathematics faculty at the for the first 2 years of college preparation. At the forum, there was discussion and changes suggested, but the committee wants to put this one forward. So here it is. I hope that everybody has read it and will let us know exactly how they feel.
Okay. Are there any debates on this? Leslie, I've got a con first. Nancy Rivers is a con, so I will start with the con.
Right. Hi. You can lower my hand. Yeah, so speaking against this motion, as I believe it's the way it was when it was presented to the board. It has removed any requirement for graduate level math intensive courses. I have great respect for those with math education courses. However, I think to teach math, you need to have a solid foundation in mathematics as well, especially at the community college level or the 2-year college level, first 2 years. I cannot support anything that does not require some sort of graduate level mathematics course in here. So I will be voting against this motion.
Okay. Leslie Banta, you're the next pro.
Yes, I was the person who spoke up last year at the Delegate Assembly that asked that this be sent back to committee for equity issues. It is still the case that according to the National Science Foundation, less than 25% of math degrees are given to underrepresented minorities. Women obtain about 41% of math degrees, masters, but make up only about 32% of our full-time faculty, whereas women earn 65% of the masters in math ed. I do understand the concern that some people have about there needs to be more math intensive in a math education degree. It actually is required in California, but it has been brought to my attention that not all states have that same level of requirement. But I think that this could be addressed by a fairly simple motion, and that is on page 86 in both lines 59 and 65, where it states mathematics education. I believe we could add in supported by a bachelor's degree in mathematics or the equivalent. And that would address having the level of mathematics that is truly required to teach at the community college level. We do not need people with PhDs. We do not need people with super high math content. We need people who can teach our students where they are. People with math ed degrees currently are allowed to teach in California and are doing a fine job of it. I think that this is really important for us. You know, AMATYC has passed so many diversity, equity, and inclusion position statements recently. And if we aren't willing to consider that within our own ranks, then what does that really mean? So I'd like to make a motion for that change, and I hope that the delegates will support this. understanding that it's coming from a place of wanting to increase representation in our field for our students.
All right, so we have a motion to amend this.
Leslie, could you put it in the chat, please?
I will put it in the chat, yes.
And then you have a second. So we will now debate that amendment. I do notice we have Jason wanted to speak to the original motion. Do you also want to speak to this amendment or just the original motion?
Well, the original amendment was where I was headed, but I think a compromise could be to the motion. But why I'm mostly con is on accreditation grounds. I know we just went through the Higher Learning Commission, and I don't know which schools and which states fall under that, but I'm in Wisconsin. Under our accreditation agency, and they were really harping on the 18 semesters hours of graduate level mathematics if you had a math ed degree. They did not parse it down into math eds applied. They were a little okay with applied math and statistics, but it was really a gray area. And there was a lot of worry of some instructors having to go back and get a few extra grad course credits in there to keep the accreditation agency off of our backs.
All right, so Jason, were you actually talking about the amendment, or were you talking about the original motion?
Well, I think it could be under the amendment.
Okay.
But my original thought was the whole motion as a whole.
Okay.
In the minimum preparation on line 58, 59. Where
All right, so let's just talk about the amendment at the moment, and then we can go back to that. We can bring you back up after that, okay?
So technically it would fall under the current amendment because
Okay.
a bachelor's degree may not be high enough in some accreditation areas of, and we're all accreditation by different agencies. So I don't want us to be stuck with, oh crap, accreditation issues if we hire or promote people that just have math ed. Because I know some PhD programs in math ed that don't do any advanced math at all. And supposedly Illinois State is one of the better schools in math ed. And I had an office mate who didn't get higher than Calc 3 in any of her math, and she was working on a PhD in math ed. So that concerns me a little bit. And every state's different, so just something to keep in mind.
All right, we are working with the amendment at the moment. So the next person I saw for the amendment is Lisa Feynman.
Yeah, it boots me out and into Kate. Sorry about that. I wanted to say pro on the amendment because it does address whether math education is considered a strong enough program, but that also this is a position statement by AMATYC, is not a law, and certainly accreditation boards supersede for institutions any requests, positions, statements, etc., that we would make. I don't feel that this is enough to tell schools that they should ignore their accreditation bodies, merely offer support should it be requested, and isn't going to overrule any of those types of things.
All right, so so you're pro the amendment then?
Yes.
Okay. Are there anybody else who would like to talk on the amendment to this? The amendment is that we will insert supported by a bachelor's degree in mathematics or the equivalent after math education in both lines 59 and 65. So you can see lines 65, 59, let's do 59 first. It says, You had a hard time finding 59. Okay, 59 says graduate level mathematics, mathematics education supported by a bachelor's degree in mathematics or equivalent. And the same thing on line 86, on line 65.
65.
Same exact statement. So that is what is being proposed as an amendment to this position statement. Is there any more discussion on the amendment? Nancy Rivers?
I am retired from Wake Tech in North Carolina. And the existing position statement we used many times to justify who we were willing to hire and who we were not. In North Carolina, you can get a master's degree in math ed and only have elementary math in that. So in the state of North Carolina, this just would mean I could have all sorts of people teaching a calculus class who don't really understand calculus. That may not be the case.
The amendment addresses that.
No, I don't believe that a bachelor's degree, bachelor's level is sufficient, in my opinion, to teach calculus in a community college or any college. I think you need to have some master's math in order to be able to do this and do it well, to have a thorough understanding. In all the interviews I conducted, one of the questions we ask is, how would you help students see the difference, going into calculus, the idea of a derivative? And the majority of applicants could not explain how they would do that well to a student.
All right. Are there any other kinds? I see Chris Ward would like to speak. Call the question, and we have a second. So we have a call the question by Patrick Wisher of Mississippi. And that was seconded. So we will go ahead and have a vote on calling the question. That means we will call the question. Calling the question means that we will stop debate on the amendment only. This is not in the original motion. This is just on whether or not the amendment happens to the position statement. A no would continue debate on the amendment to the position statement. So we can have a Zoom poll on that. So again, this Zoom poll is to stop debate on adding the amendment to this motion. Okay, so we have a sufficient yes to stop, to call the question. So we will now have a vote on the motion, the amendment to add into the position statement on lines 59 and 65, that after the words mathematics education, to add in there a bachelor's degree in mathematics or supported by a bachelor's degree in mathematics or the equivalent. In both lines 59 and 65. A yes will allow this amendment to happen. A no will go back to the original motion as it stands. All right, the amendment did not pass. So that language will not be added into this position statement. So we are back to the original position statement. We can continue to debate the original position statement. I believe we had Ben Assenberger who would like to talk to the original motion.
Yes, Ben Ashenbrenner here. And I want to address both the con things that I've heard and try to convince my colleagues that they're borrowing trouble to some extent. There's an important step that I feel like people are overlooking, which is that the college forms a committee, a hiring committee, and decides what's important for the position. If I'm hiring a full-time faculty math teaching position and the majority or all of the teaching is going to be the entry-level quantitative reasoning course that, you know, for instance, in Indiana now represents over 50% of our mathematics coursework, these concerns are irrelevant. So what I think this position statement does is it takes an assertive stance to say, if you want to, as a hiring committee, consider people that have mathematics education's backgrounds, you should do that. And I also think you have the added benefit of pushing some accreditation agencies to think about what they're requiring. To me, this is a major equity point. And I firmly stand with Leslie on this, that AMATYC has the opportunity in making this statement to take a strong position that there are lots of ways to get to the position of teaching mathematics, and that by opening the doors slightly wider, we're going to do a better job of getting a more diverse and inclusive representation of the people in this country who can teach mathematics. Thank you.
All right, we have a bunch of cons. I'm not seeing many pros to the original motion at the moment. Jason Gerber, do you want to continue your con statement on the original motion? Or were
No,
you
I
done?
think I've said enough.
Okay. All right, then the next con was Linda Blanco.
Hi, yeah, my issue is a two-part thing. One would be we have a wide expansion of dual credit, and I have been asked to credential high school teachers to teach our courses at the high school. And when I check their credentialing, their transcripts, they have what are graduate courses. But if you look at the course content, when I search, it's a course in basic algebra for people who would like to teach basic algebra. So they are learning a developmental course so that they can teach that developmental course. I don't think that, and by the way, which they don't do at the dual credit because they're teaching transfer courses. And so that scares me, and I don't credential them, but I have to get into fights with high school administrators on that because it's just, it's not, it may be a grad course, but it's a math education course. So I have problems with that. And there are a lot of schools now, by the way, coming up with these programs cleverly to credential people by slapping a 600 number on their courses. So I'm kind of in agreement with what Nancy said also about, you know, it becomes like I can honor some of the bachelors almost more because some of them go way deeper than some of these math ed courses do. Okay. And if I'm hiring for like full-time, we don't know what our needs are going to be. We might know what our needs are going to be now, but we don't know what our needs are going to be 10 years from now. And people stick around a while. So we kind of want them to cover all the bases, and we need them to have the vision so this send people off to STEM, to, you know, liberal arts, whatever. Okay. So anyway, that's my con. Thanks.
Okay. The next pro now is Lisa Feynman.
Yes, in pro of even the original position statement, again, this is a position statement and not dictating what any university, college, or institution has to do for their hiring needs. It just opens up opportunity for faculty that may qualify otherwise by merits of their teaching skills and proven track record as an educator to not have exactly 18 graduate credits in mathematics, yet still be considered a qualified teacher, and that would be up to the institutions. This just opens up more opportunity if those people do exist to provide support that institutions could consider hiring them.
Okay, thank you. I have a call to the question from Patrick Wilshire of Mississippi. It has been seconded. So we will need to vote on calling the question. Again, calling the question means that we would stop debate. And so a yes vote would stop debate and we would then vote on the motion. A no vote would continue debate. So can I have a Zoom poll for calling the question?
Kate, we have a point of order.
What's the point of order? Can we finish the vote since we're in the middle of the vote? Or Ben, do you want to tell me what your point of order is?
Yeah, I just, this question for the parliamentarian about the correctness of skipping over people who would have been queued up at the mic to speak. And you essentially have a person jumping in to foreclose their opportunity to speak on it. I just think that doesn't seem right to me, but I defer to the parliamentarian.
Would you like for me to speak to that, Kate?
Yes, please, Don.
Okay. Chat complicates things. In a live face-to-face meeting, there would be no opportunity to know that there was going to be a call to question coming later. What the rules say is that call to question is not what we would call an interruptive. It cannot be made when somebody else has the floor. Who has the floor is up to the chair. So it was entirely legitimate for the president to go ahead and recognize somebody out of chat order. It would still be in order as far as parliamentary procedure is concerned. Again, that's up to the chair.
Since we're in the middle of the vote, I'd like to finish the vote. I'm hoping that we can continue conversations though. So the call to the question did pass because it needed to have a 2/3 vote and had 72%. So that is more than 2/3. So we will go to the motion on the floor. The motion on the floor is to, let me get the exact wording. So the motion on the floor is to that the delegate assembly approve the attached position statement entitled Academic Preparation of Faculty Teaching Mathematics in the First 2 Years of College. So that is. Sorry, Lisa, I don't know what you mean by it was out of order.
Sorry, Kate, that was taking too long to type in the chat. Don had said normally in a face-to-face meeting, it would be done in the order that people were presenting themselves. And that was down below 5 or 6 people that had already requested to speak. So I'm not sure that, and you just want, I understand that the call to vote had already happened, but if that was out of order, I'm not sure whether that was then following the proper rules, if they wouldn't have had that option to vote had we been going in the order of people in the chat. And I don't know what the answer to that is. That's what I was questioning.
So I believe when we're in person and we have the pro mic and the con mic, and then there's the process mic gets precedent over the other two. So that's usually the ordering we do it. And if somebody has a process mic of calling the question, and then that is seconded, then that would be done before anybody else who's standing at the mics. We get a credit type.
Okay, that's fair then. Then I have no issue and I withdraw my question.
Okay. So that's normally the way things are done in person. And unfortunately, we did vote to call the question. So the question is The motion is that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached position statement entitled Academic Preparation in Faculty Teaching Mathematics in the First 2 Years of College. A yes vote will approve this position statement, and no would not approve it.
And this will come across as division and department leadership, as that was the committee that sent it forward.
Okay, as you can see, the motion has passed. So, the ayes have it. The motion is approved. Thank you. The position statement on the academic preparation of mathematics faculty teaching in the first 2 years of college has been approved. Christine, I would like to thank you and the division and department ANET for all your work to usher this position statement through the approval process.
Thank you
Alright.
to everybody who is involved and who has put in their information and their input. I really appreciate, and so does the committee, and so does the ANET, all of the input. And we realize that this is very, very much a debatable thing still by the closeness of the vote. However, thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine. We are not done. I apologize. Would you like to have a 5-minute bio break? I'm seeing some yeses, so let's go ahead. I've also seen some no's, but I'm going to give everybody 5 minutes just to take a couple minutes to stand up and move around. And then we will get back. We have 2 more things and a few announcements to make. So please stick around. There are 2 more things to approve. Okay, we will come back. Okay, so I hope everybody's back. I invite Nancy Rivers, the AMATYC secretary, to place the motion on page 86 on the floor to approve the changes to bylaws section. Sorry, my Roman numerals are not as good as they should be. 8.
It's 13, isn't it?
Oh, 13. You're right. See, my Roman numerals really are not good. And actually, it's written in my thing as 8. So thank you.
Okay. All right, I move that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached proposed amendment to Article 13, titled Amendment of the AMATYC bylaws.
All right, since this came from a committee, it does not need a second. Nancy, do you wish, Madam Secretary, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, just briefly, we realized, was we have another bylaws change to come before us. We did a virtual forum that our bylaws do not allow for that virtual forum. Therefore, we had a face-to-face forum at our conference. But this change only just gives us the ability to do virtual forums or hearings for bylaws changes, as well as we do our hearings for our position statements.
All right, is there any debate on this? Seeing none, can we please vote on this poll? So a yes vote will make the changes to the bylaws, a no vote would keep the bylaws as they are.
Kate, hold on a second. Something's not going right here.
Let's see, 3 times.
All right, so I'm seeing people put down the pretty too. Yeah, we know there's an issue. Pat's working on that. So the Pat says the poll seemed to be stopped midway through, but the voting was 100% each time. However, Pat, I've seen people say they were not able to vote. So is there any way to redo the vote?
Can you move on to the next motion and come back to this one? Would that be okay? It may take me a minute to set up a new poll.
Okay, we'll do that and we'll come back. So we'll vote on this one a little bit. That's okay with everyone. And so I invite Eddie Churchian, the AMATYC West Vice President, to place the motion on page 88 on the floor to approve the changes to bylaws section 3. Pat, I know you're busy. Are you able to put him up though? There he is.
All right, I motion that the AMATYC Delegate Assembly approve the attached position statement on the bylaw changes. Well, it's really not a position statement, the attached bylaw changes, my apologies, as noted here.
All right, since this came from a committee, it does not need a second. Mr. Vice President, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Well, I surely do. Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to remind everyone that it's a beautiful day countrywide. This is our last motion of the day. This has nothing to do with the motion itself, but just a reminder. I want to thank everyone for their time. And this was a really, really important change to our bylaws. I want to be clear right off the bat and mention that this is the first of two changes that we're taking. Essentially, we listened to you, our AMATYC members, to the last couple delegate assemblies where it was pointed out to us that adjuncts and retirees didn't enjoy the same privileges and benefits that regular members did. So we created a task force to look into this. I had the honor to chair that with many members of the board, with retiree members and with part-timers that are current members of AMATYC. So I want to thank them for their work. And the result of this work is displayed in front of you. Like I said, this is only part one, the change to the bylaws. Part two would have to be implemented later, which is a change to our manual, our policy and procedure manual. So what we'd like to do is incorporate the adjunct and retiree membership into our regular membership. So current full-timers, part-timers, and retirees would all become regular members when it comes to their privileges. That would allow them to run for positions within AMATYC. It would allow them to vote on certain things that they currently cannot vote on, and all those other benefits that come with it. Those benefits are not currently listed here, but I did want to give you a taste. Like I said, that's the second part of the change that will be coming after this vote. And if I could have Past President Ham project the prepared slide for this. I'd like to thank him very much for creating this, but this is based on our website, the membership types that we currently have. You see the regular, currently known as the individual membership, adjunct, and retired. All three of those will become regular membership. The individuals in those three categories currently, individual, adjunct, and retired members, would now be regular members moving forward and would have the right to vote, hold elected office, be appointed to leadership positions, nominate people to do so, etc. The student category will fall out and it will have an associate membership instead. And as you can see, the institutional will still remain institutional. So those are the proposed changes that will eventually happen. The first step in the process, however, is voting the change to the bylaws, which then allows the board to change its manual to reflect the changes seen here on this slide. So this will be taken, this is directly from our website. The different price tiers will remain as you see here, and that's pretty much what this motion is about. If we could switch back to the motion, Past President Ham. One other minor change there is that your membership will start, if you could just scroll down to the next page. Your membership will start, and it will be an annual membership the day the user paid. So under section 3 there, you see the membership here. We're defining that to be the day the user paid. So that's another minor change. Okay, thank you.
All right, are there debate on this changes? John Bennett has a question. Lisa Feynman, you put a question in the chat. Do you want to talk about that? We're going to do John Bennett first, since he had a question.
The question I had was, would this change that those two categories would now need to pay the same rate as the regular, or would there continue to be a different rate for the adjuncts and the retirees?
There will continue to be a different rate.
Lisa Feynman, would you like to make your question?
Yes, yeah. My question was just clarifying that so people who attend on their institution's membership still cannot be a voting member or an affiliate delegate, correct?
That was brought up to our attention at the open forum that we held in Phoenix, and that is something that the board would like to look into in the future. But for the moment, with this bylaw change, it remains the same. Thank you, Lisa, for bringing that up. That's an excellent point.
That's fine. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? I do not see any others, but I'll wait a couple minutes, a minute at least. All right. Yeah, Nancy, you made the comment, but John already asked this question.
If he did, I sure missed it.
Yeah, he was just clarifying what the fees would be. Are they gonna be different or the same? I'm not seeing any other questions or comments. Can we have that Zoom poll for this? Actually, let's do the other one first. Sorry, this was the one on section 13. That is the one that would change when we can do when does the hearing have to happen? So this is the one that would change section 13, sorry. And this will change, allowing us to have the hearings on bylaw changes to be not during the conference. So yes vote will say we can have them other times. A no vote will keep it the way it is. And that motion passed 99-1. So thank you, Nancy, for your work on that. And now we will vote on the new bylaw changes, which is bylaws changes section 3. That will change who gets to participate in elections and to be delegates. And a bunch of other changes to section 3. So a yes vote will change the bylaws to the new changes. A no vote will keep the bylaws the way they were. It does still say, it is section 3.
That's just a typo.
All right, that motion has passed. Eddie, I would like to thank you and your committee for all the hard work you worked on this, and the adjunct and retiree task force for ushering the bylaw changes through the approval process. Thank you all. This is, we now move on to items for discussion. This is time for the delegates to voice their comments about issues that relate to AMATYC's mission. Please put in the chat your name and delegate status if you'd like to have any discussion. Or make it in discussion items. Jeff Heron, KY AMATYC president, would like to make a discussion.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to commend Pat on the great job he's done on the webinar controls, but I would like to encourage us, if we're at all able, to do this in person in Toronto next year.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? George Alexander, Wisconsin State Delegate.
Thank you, Madam President. I apologize for my earlier confusion on the separation between distance education and proctoring, but I think it would be prudent for the organization to consider a position statement on proctoring in the future that is independent of the delivery format.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other discussion items you would like us to bring up? Ben Aschenberg Brenner, sorry. AMATYC president.
I guess I don't know where this belongs, but that it didn't feel very good what happened during the debate. And I wish if we are going to continue virtually, that we would get a way of kind of defining that, what the expectations are about the order of the chat and that call to question. It just strikes me that the call to question can be used as a weapon to kind of stop people from talking. And yes, that is essentially what it is. But I also, since you ruled earlier that there was no discussion on the question of calling the question to vote, that seems kind of problematic to me. But I don't know how to address that or where that even belongs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll take them into consideration for what we do next year. Marty Kellum.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick that I know that being a delegate is a real responsibility, and I take it very seriously, and I kind of hope that everyone else does as well. It might behoove most people that agree to do this to kind of refresh a little bit on what parliamentary procedure is, so that when they come in, they also kind of know what to expect and know kind of the feel of this kind of thing. I know that it is very difficult to do this web-based, and I recognize the difficulties of that. And I would like to second that, if at all possible, we can do this in person, that it really be done in person, just because I feel like there's less questions about procedure when it's done the way that it traditionally has been done. So just throwing that out there.
Okay, thank you very much. Nancy Saller did put a question in here about having time limits, and there were supposed to be time limits. It wasn't an order of rules of conduct. I unfortunately did not stick as well as I should have to those, but we do have time limits on all of our motions. We just didn't stick with them as well as we should have. Are there any other announcements that would like to be made? What's my cat's name? His name is Firepaw. So Sophia Jackie would like to make a discussion.
Yes, I wanted to ask, when we have an in-person delegate assembly, I believe the people from the audience who are not delegates are able to speak. And in this assembly, to be able to differentiate between voting members and non-voting members, we had our guests attend via YouTube, which means that if they want to say something or to participate now in this latest part of the delegate assembly, they are not able to. So the only people we are hearing from right now is from the delegates. And I was wondering if this is something we can think about for future delegate assemblies.
Yes, I don't believe that anybody who's not a delegate can speak though, but we will look into that. Thank you. Nicole?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Thanks.
Nicole Lang from Minnesota?
In light of the motion that was just passed with the bylaws changes, I just want to strongly encourage everyone who to pay full dues rather than the now easily the temptation to pay either adjunct or retiree dues because it's cheaper and you get the same benefits. So just if you can pay the full dues, it's helpful to the organization.
All right, thank you. Are there any other discussions? Nancy Bezung, I'm so sorry. I know this was not your name. Nebraska State Delegate of Central Region. Nancy, please apologize. Nezarine, is that right?
Hi, Kate. Don't worry about it. Everybody mispronounces my name. It's Rezeki.
Rezeki. Okay.
I just wanted to make the comment. I appreciate the value of having the delegate assembly in person. I have been to that type of assembly and I've now attended this way. The only thing I would say on the other side of that discussion is that attending in person just isn't always possible for all of us. And I know we can have proxies, but I find it very valuable to be able to attend this, even though I wasn't able to go to Phoenix. The same thing with next year. If I'm not able to actually go to Toronto, I would still love to be able to attend the assembly. That was all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much. I did want to point out that we did find that it was an equity issue, and that's why we put this virtually. Last year, we obviously had to, but we decided that we had a good idea, and we can certainly look into other options. Hybrid is definitely an option we can look at. Vicky Todd from North Carolina. Go ahead, Vicky.
Sorry, I apologize. My dog's all of a sudden decided to bark. There would not be a problem at all with having something that would be like a HiFlex like we do all the time, where we have delegates in person and then also online. That to me would be a very easy fix for that.
All right, we will definitely look into those possibilities. Thank you. Christine Marbaha.
Hi, I wanted to encourage the delegates for the Delegate Assembly in the future to make sure that they tap into their constituents before the actual Delegate Assembly, so that they can voice the opinions of all the people that they are representing, not just themselves. And I think that that would be very important. And to that, would it be possible to get the information to the people in general a little bit faster than right at the last minute, so that they'll have time to read through everything and contact their delegates to voice their opinions? I'd like that to be considered.
Okay, thank you very much. We will consider that for next year. Tim Chappelle from Missouri.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I would just like to say, especially with one of the votes that was passed earlier that was very close, I would like us to consider more than just simple majority for a position statement. I'm concerned about AMATYC publishing something that slightly, almost half of the folks voting were not in favor of. So just for future consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other discussion topics? Okay, I want to thank you very much for giving us these. Do note that we did make a change to the bylaws because of a discussion comment a couple years ago. So we do want to thank you very much for all of this. I do have several announcements I'd like to make. So Jim, if you would share your screen again. I would like to make the first announcement is that Ricky Blair was awarded the 2020 Mathematics Excellence Award. She did receive that at this conference. George Hurlbert and Judy Williams received the 2021 Herb Gross Presidential Award. Jessica Bernard, Fawn Chen, and Jennifer Travis received the AMATYC Teaching Excellence Award on Thursday of the conference. The members of the 2022-2023 nominating committee are, the chair is me, Northeast is Alexander Atwood, Southeast is Ellen Matheny, Midwest is Tina Alice, sorry. Central is Camilla Benawira. Southwest is Sonia Perch. Northwest is Sandra Wildfer. West is Ben Moulton. At large is Barbara Letherer. Another at large is Pete Wildman. Another one is Christine Mabraha, and also Pat Riley. The new 2023 Teaching Excellence Committee has also been elected. The members of that committee are George Hurlbert is the chair because he's the president-elect. Bridget Dart is Northeast. Carol Howard is the Mid-Atlantic. Vicky Todd is the Southeast. Ben Aschenberg-Brenner is the Midwest. Sarah Davenport is the Central. Seth Dougherty is the Southwest. Celeste Peterson is the Northwest. Curry Arnoldson is the West. And the adjunct is hopefully going to be Rachel D'Alejandro. Next is the 2022 Mathematics Excellence Committee. The Northeast is Alahana Kamiri. The Mid-Atlantic is West Crumbler. The Southeast is John Bennett. The Midwest is Michelle McClure. The Central is Jessica Foster. Venetia Foster. Sorry about that. Northeast is Lorinda Batik. The West is Carrie Arnoldson. The Southwest is Shannon Ruth, and the chair is Jim Ham. The 2022-23 AMATYC Executive Board is, the president will be Laura Watkins. The president-elect is, sorry, I'm looking for something real fast. I apologize. The president-elect is George Hurlbert. The past president is myself, Catherine Kozak. The secretary will be Nancy Rivers. The treasurer will be Barbara Steinhurst. The Northeast vice president is AJ Shackle. The Mid-Atlantic vice president is Dennis Ebersol. The Southeast vice president is Elvina Atkinson. The Midwest vice president is Brandon Bartley. The Central vice president is Dale Johansson. The Southwest vice president will be Shannon Ruth. The Northwest vice president is Sarah Polly. And the West vice president is Eddie Churchian. I wish this executive board a good 2 years. I do have one final announcement to make. The AMATYC board voted to move the 2026 conference from Orlando due to a new Florida law that violates the diversity clause that AMATYC includes in its contracts with hotels. We are currently looking for a new city to hold our 2026 conference. We will update everyone once the site for the new 2026 conference is finalized. We are sorry to leave Orlando, but the state of Florida has enacted a law that negatively impacts our faculty, and students and is in direct conflict with our organization's values, mission, and our policy on welcoming environment. Okay. Sorry, I've lost where I am. All right. I would like to once again take this opportunity to recognize and thank the local events coordinator for the Phoenix Conference, Ana Jimenez, and her local team for all the work they performed for the Phoenix Conference. Thanks also to Turi Susky, Judy Williams, and the rest of the conference committee for their year-long commitment and great work in bringing this wonderful conference in Phoenix and virtual component to us this year. Thank you, the AMATYC delegates, for your participation in this delegate assembly. Until the 2022 meeting in conjunction with Toronto Conference, there will be no further business. The 2021 Delegate Assembly is adjourned. I do ask again for the committee that's going to be the membership, the minutes committee, to please stick around. The board also, I want to remind you all that we are supposed to be meeting correctly after this. Thank you all.